All right, what is going on? It is Nate, and I'm back with another video. In this video, I'm going to go over the key topics to creating your dream life, right? So I've spent a lot of time studying this stuff, and honestly, too much time, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about in this. And so through this video and through what I say in here, you should be able to create the life that you want. That's the honest truth, because I'm going to provide you with every, strategy and detail that you need. And the only difference that will determine if you benefit from this or not is if you actually apply it, right? So I've spent a lot of time studying this stuff, but I came to this realization this week that I haven't spent enough time applying it, right? Because I always hear you need to apply it, right? Reading a book isn't going to make you rich, but applying what the book says can make you rich. And so I was always like, okay, I need to apply it, but like, what do I mean apply it? What do you mean apply it? And so I've been digging into that, and I'm studying Bob Proctor, his program, Thinking into Results, which is an amazing program, um, which I have in my group for the people in there. And so I'm gonna go over the 5 points, right? These are the 5 things you need, and if you listen to this over and over, right? Because I'm gonna talk about that, why that's important. But then you take action on these things, then it's only a matter of time until your reality, manifests physically. So, first things first is desire, right? So I'm not really gonna use the iPad too much in this because I know like when I write it doesn't necessarily help, but desire, right? So what's so important about your desire? Well, you have to think about it like this. If you don't know what you want, how do you expect God to take you there? Right? So imagine it like you get in a car, you get in an Uber, you have a chauffeur or something, and like, where do you want to go? You're like, I don't know. Right? They're going to be like, well, do I turn left? Do I turn right? Do I go straight? Do I go backwards? Do I go on this freeway or that freeway or this freeway or that freeway or that road or this road? You have no idea where to go. Right? So you need to figure out what you want. And this isn't like, oh, just sit down for 5 minutes. Oh, I want this car and this house. No, you have to really think, like, really think, because you have to realize there's infinite potential, infinite possibilities. There's infinite things that you could do, infinite lives that you can live. So it's not usually going to be like a super quick, oh, yeah, this is what I want. Unless you've already spent a lot of time thinking about it. It's probably going to take a lot of time to figure out what you actually do want. Because you want something that it almost makes you sick to your stomach when you think about it because it scares you. But you want it, right? You want it really bad. You have no idea how you're gonna get it, and so it kind of scares you. So Bob Proctor talks about this. There's two types of goals, or three types. Sorry. There's A-type goals. So an A-type goal is something that you've already done. So say you've made 10,000 a month one time, in the past, and you're like, my goal, I want to make $10,000 in a month. So that's an A-type goal, right? Because you've already done it. And then a B type goal would be if you're like, okay, I want to make 12,000 a month. And you've already made 10,000 and you're like, okay, if I do this, this and this, I can get to 12,000. If this person does this and if this happens, then I can get to 12,000. That's a B type goal because you have a plan, right? You think you know how to get there. And then a C type goal, this is the goal that you want. You want a goal that you have no idea how to accomplish, how to achieve it. You don't even know where to get started. That's what you need. And I know it sounds crazy. I'm going to go into why. But you need to figure out what you truly want, right? You need to know exactly what you want, and it has to scare you. Like today, I was at my little brother's basketball game, and I was on Zillow looking at these homes in Laguna Beach that are like $30 million, right? And it's like I'm looking at these and I'm seeing what the payment is every month, and it literally was like making me sick. Because I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, $150,000 per month to live here just for the home payment, and I was just like what, right? And then the more you think about it, you're like, okay, so to be able to afford that, I got to make 1 million a month. So I got to make 12 million a year. And you're like, how can I make 12 million a year? And you're like, I have no idea. But you're like, but imagine the life I'd be living. I'd have a house on the water of Laguna Beach. No. And you start fantasizing, right? So your C-type goal is your fantasy. That's the goal. Because the truth is, and I've been going through this, right? Because my goal was 100,000 a month, which I know that's still a lot of money, but it doesn't scare me because it's like, okay, if I have a good month in trading, if I sell this many, if I have this many people join my mentorship, plus, this, and this, like I kind of have the plan, right? So it's like, okay, once I have once, say I have a month where I double my account in my portfolio, right? And then I start posting that on social media, I get a lot of people to join my group. Okay, there's 100,000, right? And so it's like, I have this plan where it's like, okay, like I know what it will take to get there. Like I can already kind of see how it will work out. And that's the problem, right? Because if you know how things are going to work out, or you think you know what you need to do, you're not going to be inspired, right? And that's the problem. If say you're working a job and you're making 10,000 a month, and you're like, I want to make 12,000, like, is that $2,000 going to get you out of bed? Is that going to put you on fire? Is that going to inspire you? Or would it be like, yeah, that'd be nice, but like, I don't really care that much, right? But then if you're like, okay, imagine I had this house on the hills of Laguna Beach, 10, 20, $30 million home. I have panoramic views all the way around the house of the ocean. I have a staircase down to my own beach right there, right? Because this is a real thing. Like, this is real. You could go on Zillow. They're up for sale. So you think about that, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, that's what I want. And then you start thinking about it. You're like, okay, imagine if I lived there. That is where you start to get inspired, because you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get this. Like, I'm literally getting the chills right now. But you look at it and you're like, I don't know. And that's what you want. Because if you don't know, you know what happens is you surrender. So here's the issue with A-type and B-type goals. You think you know the answer. You think you know how to get there. You think you know what to do, and that's the issue. But when you have a C-type goal, when you have a fantasy, when you have this goal where you're like, I don't even know where to start, guess what you do? You rely on the higher power. You rely on God. You rely on your spiritual side of yourself, right? And so that's what you need, because when you think you know how to do it, you're not going to be inspired. You're probably not going to do what you know you should be doing, right? There's a gap. We all know what we should do, but we don't do it, right? So you have to understand, okay, there's a gap. Like, I know more than I do. And so if I really want to change my life, if I really want to be inspired, if I really want to make changes, I'm going to have a fire under me. What puts that fire under me, right? And so I was looking at these homes and I was like, holy smokes, $30 million for a home. Like, I can't even, I mean, where I live, like a really nice house would be like 2 million. A crazy house would probably be like 6 million max. There's some for 10 and like in the bigger cities around me, but like it's pretty rare. A $30 million home is absolutely unheard of. Like, I don't even think there is one around here. I could be wrong, but right. So it's just, you change your perspective, because you have to realize we are all an expression of the same thing, right? We are all a spiritual being that has come to the physical world, and we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So you have to realize, if they can do it, they have the same access to the power, to the knowledge that I have. They can do it. Why can't I? If they can live there, if they can figure out what they need to do, if they can start the business, they could sell out of $100 million business. Why can't I? The truth is, you can, but you have to want it, right? So here's the goal here, like, just really quick to break it down. You set the fantasy, right? So you have your fantasy. You're like, okay, I want a $30 million home in Laguna Beach. I want this car. I want to do this. I want to earn this much. I want to help this many people. You set this fantasy, right? And then what you have to do is you have to plant this into the spiritual side of you, right? So you have two parts. Okay, yeah, we'll go into this. So you have two parts of your mind. At least, there could be more. I don't know. But this is for the sake of this video. And I don't even know how to spell conscious. Honestly, I always spell it wrong. Conscious, right? You have your conscious and you have your subconscious, right? So you have two parts in your mind. So your conscious mind is your thinking mind, right? So think of this like your brain. And then your subconscious mind, that's your heart, right? Like when you say, my heart, that's in my heart. My heart's telling me, like, that is your subconscious mind. And in Greek, writing and stuff, that's what they refer to as the heart. You could refer to it as your spirit, subconscious mind. I mean, there's a million different words for it. But it ultimately is like the spiritual being that you are, but it's not physically here, right? So when you die, your spirit leaves, but your body stays here. So this is the part of you that leaves. That's what I'm talking about, right? So you have to realize that your thinking mind, your conscious mind, right? So when you learn, watching this video right here, this exact video, if you absorb every single thing that I say, this will have a 5% impact on your results. 5% of the results in your life come from your thinking mind, your conscious mind, from learning, from knowing, right? Your conscious mind is knowing. I know. But the thing is, we don't do it, right? You're like, oh, I want to lose weight. Well, then why'd you eat that piece of cake? I don't know. See, you know what you should be doing, but you don't do it. That's the gap we're trying to close. Your subconscious mind, which is your heart, which is you, right? That's who you are, is 95% of your results. 95% of your results are controlled by who you are in your heart, in your spirit, in your subconscious mind, and the higher side of you, right? That is what controls your results. So, my point here is, if you want change, you can't just absorb information, right? Thinking, reading, studying, listening, that can only affect 5% of your results. The only way it is going to cause you to change is if it gets into the spiritual side of you, the subconscious, the heart, all those different terms. That is the only way it's going to happen. But this is the crazy part. I'm getting the chills so many times during this video. So 95% of your results are controlled by your subconscious mind. But let me tell you what's crazy is you are a You and I, we both operate like the AC unit, right? You set a temperature. Let's say the temperature is 57 degrees. That's really cold. Okay, let's say it's 57, right? And let's say that's where it's set. It's like, okay, 57 degrees. So when it gets down to 55, the heater's going to kick on, right? Bang, back to 57. And if it goes up to 59, 60 degrees, bang, it's going to turn off until it goes back to 57, right? So you always go back to this median point, which is your self-image. That is the way you see yourself. You always resort back to that. You might have those really, really good months, you make a lot of money, and then the next month you make way, way less, and then it evens out to the same average, right? So what I'm saying is when you change that average, you change your life. When you change the average, you change your life because you are always going to resort back to your median of who you are, your true self-image. So the only way you're going to get permanent and lasting change is to change your self-image. So, right? So you know what you want. You understand that knowing, like watching this video isn't going to make you rich. Watching another video and 100 more videos is not going to make you rich. It's not going to change you. The only way, I'm going to get into this in a second. Okay, so you need to change this, right? So if you want that, let's say you want the $30 million home, right? Let's say you need to be making $1 million a month. You need this $1 million to be $1 million a month. You need this to be your median. This needs to be what you resort back to. And I know I said back to, but you've probably never even come close to that. I know that's the crazy part. So you know what you want, right? So you know, okay, for this example, we're just going to say $1 million a month, right? That's what you want. You're like, I want to make $1 million a month. I don't know how. That sounds crazy. What are you even talking about, right? So step 2, I know it says paradigm, but step 2 is you need to know where you are. Sorry, that was a really bad W. Where you are now, right? So if you are, you're like, I'm going to go on a trip and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to Las Vegas, right? If you don't know where you're starting, if you don't put in a starting destination to your map, it cannot give you direction to get there, correct? So if you do not know exactly where you are in this present moment, you will not be able to get somewhere else. You can't get to point, right? So say you're at point A and say you want to get to point B. You can't get there if you don't know where point A is. How do you plan on getting to the store if you don't know where you're at, right? Someone puts a blindfold on you and they're like, hey, get to the store. You'd be like, well, where am I? Right? Where do I go from here? I don't know. Right? But then if you take off the blindfold, you might be like, okay, I see some street. Okay, I know where I can go from here. I'm going to start moving. I may not know exactly how to get there, but I kind of have a direction, right? So you need to know where you are. How much money are you making right now? How much do you have saved up? What are you doing? What are your results in all areas of your life? Right? Are you happy? Are you healthy? Are you fit? Are you following your diet? Where are you? Right? Because the reason you're watching this video is because you want to be more than you are now. So step 1 is to know where you are now. And here's where it gets tricky. Here's honestly one of the most important parts that I think is what, when I first started getting into all this and I really started changing, I moved away and I was like, okay, I'm doing this. The one thing I was really good at is I would look at my present situation and I would just get disgusted. I would be like, this is my best. And I was doing well. I was making good money. I was living what most would consider a really good life. And I would look and I'd just be like, this is the best I could do. Really? This is where I'm going to live. This is the car I'm going to drive. This is the most I could make. This is my best. I know that I have infinite potential and this is the best I could do. No. Right? So then I would look and I'd be like, this is the best. No. And then I would just get irritated because I'd be like, okay, I'm not staying here. I got to change. If I want new results, I'm going to have to do new things. I'm going to have to act different, think different, be different, whatever. Something's going to have to change if I want to be different, if I want different results. And it hit me today when I was at my little brother's basketball game. I was, I used to play for the same league, right? When I was in, I don't know, I think I started playing when I was 9 or 10. I played for many, many years, right? And I had the same referees that he has right now, right? And that was years ago. And that just kind of hit me because I was like, people really don't change. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way, because if that's what they want to be doing, that is amazing that they're living the life they want to live and they're doing what they love to do and they love, having involvement in basketball. I'm not saying anything. It's just an example where it hit my head and I was like, people do not change. Looking around, I was like, most of these people that I've known from before, they all seem the same. Nothing has changed. Years have gone by, but nothing's changed. Because personal change is a choice. It's not, life is always growing. You're either growing or you're disintegrating, but you have to make a decision if you want to change for the better. Otherwise, you're just going to float and you're going to stay the same. So where are you now? How much are you making? What are you doing? What do you look like? Are you happy with the way you look? How many followers do you have? Like, measure yourself in the way you can measure yourself, the best way possible, and whatever is important to you, right? If you're like, I do not care about money, I want to measure my physical health, right? What do you weigh right now? What does your diet look like? What are you eating? What are you putting into your body? Is that the best you could do? Are you getting as many steps in as you can get, right? You have to realize this works for everything. So you know where you are, right? And I genuinely mean it. You should spend at least 2 weeks figuring this out, where you are and where you want to go. You know, obviously figuring out where you are is kind of easy, but figuring out what you want out of life is not easy. I'm on week, I think 3 of like really thinking, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And I'm at like it's like peeling back an onion. Like, more layers are being revealed, and then you start to see things. You're like, oh, I want that. I want that. I don't really care about that, right? And then you start to get this vision of what you truly do want. So now you know where you are, and you know where you want to go, right? So now you have to realize, though, that information is right here in your conscious thinking mind that controls 5% of your results. So that's going to do nothing for you, right? You're like, oh, cool, I know what I want. I know where I am. That doesn't do anything, right? Maybe you'll do a little something different, and then after a few weeks, you'll forget about this video. That's the problem. And so another problem is people jump from one video to another video to another video to another video. And the problem is they're not changing because they're getting all these different ideas. But the only way an idea actually impresses upon who you are is through repetition, right? So now we're going to talk about the paradigm. The paradigm is a multitude of habits. And a habit is anything you do without giving it conscious thought, right? You wake up in the morning, what do? You have your routine. You get up, you go pee, you brush your teeth, you weigh yourself. Whatever you do, you have your routine. You don't even think about it. You just start moving. And then all of a sudden it's lunchtime, right? And you're like, it's lunchtime. Okay, what am I going to have? And then all of a sudden it's dinner time. All of a sudden it's bedtime. And you're like, where'd my day go, right? And you do this for 50 years. And you're like, where'd my life go, right? Because we just live by habit. We just move, do this. And we're not really thinking. We're just acting and reacting. And so that's what keeps you in the same cycle. If you are looking at your outside world, that is determining the way you think, feel, and act. You are going to stay in the same outside world. You have to come to your inner world, right? You have to realize you have these paradigms. Your paradigms are what control your results. It's not it's not, oh, I read this book. It doesn't change your paradigm. It doesn't, right? How hard would it be for you to break the habit of brushing your teeth? That would be difficult, right? No one could probably get you to do that. He'd be like, oh my gosh, my teeth feel nasty. I can't do that, right? That's terrible. That's my point. That's your life. You don't realize it, but your life is just habits that you do not want to break. It's so uncomfortable to break habits, and it's so difficult to add new ones. But that's what we got to do. So your paradigm, the only way. So my point being, your paradigm is in your subconscious mind, right? So your subconscious mind is, let's just say your subconscious mind is like this big circle right here. Your paradigm is in here, right? So all of your habits are within this paradigm. And so if you want new results, right, and you have to remember this right here controls 95% of your results. So you know that, okay, if I want new results, I'm going to have to change my paradigm. I'm going to have to change my habits, right? So you're like, okay, I need to change my habits, because if I build a new habit, then I will start taking new actions, getting new results, and life will change. So how do you change the paradigm? That is the most important thing here, right? A lot of people, they figure out what they want, they know where they are, but they never change the paradigm. So there's a few ways you can impress things upon your subconscious mind, upon your heart, your spirit, upon the paradigms that you have, the habits you have, is repetition, images, and emotion. Right? Okay, so these are the 3 things. These are how you impress your subconscious. I'm just scribbling. So those are the 3 ways you can impress your subconscious mind. It's through repetition, through images, and through emotion. So what I was saying earlier about watching videos, if you want, say you watch a video and you're like, I want to do that, right? So say it's a video about, I don't know, a morning routine. You're like, I want that morning routine. You aren't going to do what that video says until you probably listen to it 30 times, because you hear that over and over and over, and you're like, you know what? I should do that. And then you do it because you've internalized the information. So reading 50 different books, watching 1,000 different videos, going to 50 seminars, doing these different programs is not going to do anything if you're not doing them repetitiously and just sticking to the same ones, right? You're just listening to it over and over and over, because ultimately everything, all these spiritual teachers and everything of that sort are all talking about the same thing. They are saying that you are a spiritual being, you have infinite potential, you have a spiritual side of you, and if you decide on what you want and you impress that upon the spiritual side of you, it will then manifest. Right? No matter what you read, whether it's the Bible, whether it's Think and Grow Rich, whether it doesn't matter what it is. They're all coming down to the same thing, that you become what you think about. And so if you think of something repetitiously, that will then impress upon the spiritual side of you, which controls 95% of your results. So you decide, right? I want $1 million a month. Right? You're like, you know what? I want to earn $1 million a month because I know I can achieve anything I want. And that's what I want to do. Okay? So, what do you got to do? You need to get this. You need to turn this, right? Remember the AC unit? You need to get this to be your median, right? That it always resorts back to. So, what you have to do is you have to become somebody who has that income. You have to become your millionaire a month self, I guess you would say. So how are you going to do that? You're going to do it by using all of these. So you're going to, how do I explain this the easiest way possible? So you want to use all three, right? Because if you have these images, right? So by images, I mean, you close your eyes, you go into your imagination, you see the life you want, you see the money, you see the cars, you see the whatever you want, you see it in your mind, right? So that's the image. So then what you do is you feel the emotion. So say you're like, I want to earn $1 million a month. I want, that house on Laguna Beach. So you see that house on Laguna Beach and you feel the emotion. You're like, oh my gosh, like I just got this house. This is crazy. I have my dream, like my family's with me. Like this is the most beautiful thing ever. Like I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Like this is the most beautiful home I've ever seen in my life. Like I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful, right? So now you have the image that you've backed with emotion. So then how you really make the change is you do that repetitiously. So you have this image of what you want, what you desire, and you go into your mind, you go into your imagination, and you see that over and over and over and over and over and over. Because here's the crazy part. Your imagination or your subconscious mind does not know the difference between what you actually experienced and what you experienced in your imagination that is mixed with emotion. So if you go into your imagination and you're living in that new house, you go in the elevator in the house, and then you go in the garage and your Lambo's in the garage, and then you see your wife and you see your kids and you see the ocean and you feel gratitude. Your mind does not know that that is not real. It has no idea. It would be the same as if you went to a movie scene and you acted that out. That's what your mind thinks. It's like, oh, this is real. Like, yeah, I'm feeling these emotions. Like, I bought this house. This is crazy, right? This is what your mind is starting to be like, what's happening? And you do that repetitiously, and all of a sudden, your mind is going to be like, I have this house on Laguna Beach. I earn $1 million a month. I have this. This is who I am. This is who I am. This is who I am. And you do that for weeks at a time, right? So let's say 3 weeks, right? Everyone knows 21 days is what makes a habit. I think that's what people say. Why is this not working? 21 days, right? So let's say for 3 weeks, let's say 2 times per day, you go into your imagination, you see that image, you feel the emotion, and you do that, over and over and over. That is what it means to plant into your spiritual side of you, right? Because you have to realize that knowing what you want doesn't do anything. Knowing what you want does nothing, right? And I'm going to get into this even further, how you have to do this strategically. So okay, sorry, I'm like trying to not get way off topic. So you understand, right? If you want change, you're going to have to figure out what you want. You're going to have to plant that into the spiritual side of you, because the spiritual side of you is what causes your results to change. It's what causes you to take these new actions. You see yourself as a rich person, you're going to take rich actions. You see yourself as a loser, you're going to lose, right? Your mental image is what determines the actions you take, what comes into your life, what opportunities are brought your way, right? It literally controls everything. So now you understand that, right? But here's the crazy part, right? So this is the paradigm. We went over planting it. Now we're going to go over the actions, right? So here's the part where a lot of people get stuck, or where it kind of gets tricky. So you know what you want, you know where you are, you're doing these, visualizations. And by the way, when I say go into your imagination, what you do, you can either put on like some, there's different beats and stuff that help you get relaxed, or whatever you want to do. You can just go into a dark room and just close your eyes. And then you get into like a sleepy, where you're kind of asleep, kind of not. And then you go into your imagination and you just do that for, say, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you can do. Whatever is going to allow you to do it over and over and over. If you want to do it for 45 minutes, an hour, go for it. If you can only do 5 minutes, go for it. Better than nothing. So what happens is you go into your imagination, right? So say right now I shut my eyes and I'm listening to the music, right? or whatever, or nothing. And then I started seeing the images, right? I see the house, I see the money, I see the family, I see the love, I see the the body, the health, the wealth, whatever. I see it all. What that does is the same way if if you got into a car accident this morning and you're just in a bad mood all day, it's because you're holding the image of that in your mind, right? You're seeing that over and over and over and over and over again. You see that image of, oh my gosh, this just sucks. No, 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 right? You're in a bad mood. You have a bad attitude because of something that happened physically. So what happens is when you go into your imagination and you see yourself living the life you want to live, you are in that mood or that vibration or that, whatever that frequency. So this is where things get really crazy. So now you go. So, right? So you go into your imagination and say right now, right before this, I literally did it. Right before this, I was in my imagination. I saw the life I was living, right? So it puts you in that mood or that attitude, the frequency, whatever you want to refer to it as. Now you take actions, right? So now that's exactly what I'm doing right here. I'm taking an action. I went into, like the Bible says, go to the closet and shut the door, right? So I went into my imagination. I saw the life I wanted. It puts me onto that frequency, right? And then you take actions while still holding on to that, right? You hold on to that frequency. I can feel that mood. I feel that feeling. I see the 100,000 subscribers. I see the $30 million home. You can see the ocean behind me, right? I can see this life still. So now I'm taking actions as that version of me. This is where things get, I'm like not kidding you, this is where things get really crazy. When you start taking actions as that version of yourself, that is when the world has no chance. So what a lot of people do is they'll go and they'll visualize or whatever, they'll meditate, whatever you want to call it. It's, whatever. They'll do that, and then that's the work, right? They're like, all right, yeah, I meditated, I visualized. Cool, right? Doesn't matter. But when you visualize, so this is, I guess, the train, right? So you have your desire, and then you go into your imagination, right? So let's say you're in your imagination for 10 to 20 minutes. That's plenty. I've even done it for 5 minutes and it worked pretty well. So you know what you want. You go to your imagination 10 to 20 minutes, right? You see that image. So now you feel that. Because if you're not feeling it, then you're not imagining, right? You have to generate the emotion of it as if it was already real, right? So you feel that. So you know what you want. You go into your imagination. You feel that as real. So now you take actions. Take actions with the feeling. Right? So your mind is like, oh my gosh, I got a $30 million home. I'm earning $1 million a month. I have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And it's like, I'm taking action. So now I'm taking actions right now as someone who earns $1 million a month, who has 100,000 subscribers, who has a $30 million home, right? Now I'm taking actions as that person. So you have to realize that this world operates by cause and effect. If you put in the cause, right? So you have to realize right now, this is a cause. This is an output right now, right? I'm giving right now. So this output, I'm putting out the output of $30 million home, $1 million a month, 100,000 subscribers. I'm putting that out as I'm acting in this world, right? So you have to realize what I'm doing is I'm pulling the spiritual world, the spiritual side of myself, the higher side, which we all have. We all are all spiritual beings. And I'm pulling that into the physical world by taking actions as that version of myself. Do you see the difference? So it's not just like, oh, okay, you need to go, you need to see that dream life, and then you're just like, when's it going to come? When's it going to happen? Because that's the thing. It's not going to happen. It needs to make you feel sick to your stomach. The things you're going to have to do, the actions you're going to have to take are going to make you feel sick to your stomach. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is scary. What am I even going to do? Like this is, you feel nervous and you're just like, you almost want to throw up because it's so scary because it's so uncomfortable because you realize that let me just show this really quick, really, really quick. I don't want to get like too complex because I don't want to lose you guys. So, right, so this is like the stick figure. If you know Bob Proctor, this is one of what he says is the most important thing he ever learned, right? So you have to realize this is your conscious mind up here, your subconscious, conscious, subconscious. So you have to realize right now you have X-type thoughts, right? So these are the thoughts that you've been having that have got you where you are, which means subconsciously you're programmed to do X-type things, right? You think in X-type thoughts, which means your body is in the X-type vibration, which means you're going to get X-type results. And then you look at your outside world, right? With your senses, you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, this X frequency, the X, right? You look at your bank account, you look at this, you look at that, and that determines the way you feel. So you're in this cycle of X, 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 X. And X is what you do not want, right? Assuming you're not happy with your results, because you should never be happy. You could be, You should be grateful, but you should never be satisfied. You should always be dissatisfied, because dissatisfaction is a creative state. You need to look at your results and say, I could do better. I'm grateful for these results, but I could do better. That's what you need to think, right? So you realize that this is how you are right now. This is how you're living. This is how I'm living. This is how we're all living. Unless you are actively changing right now and you're planting these new thoughts, you are living like this. You look at your bank account. Your bank account makes you feel sad, and then you're sad throughout the day, and you take actions as the sad version of yourself, and then you keep getting the same thing, and then in a year from now, everything looks the same, right? Here's where things get weird. So you realize that right now you are still in this, subconsciously you're programmed as the X-type self, right? Because this takes time to reprogram who you are, right? At least 3 weeks minimum before your subconscious mind is like, okay, yeah, this is a habit. This is my habitual way of thinking. Like, this is who I am. But what you're doing is consciously you're planting this why idea, right? So let's say the why idea is $1 million a month, right? So now you're thinking, oh my gosh, $1 million a month, $1 million a month. And you're mixing that with emotion, right? You see that life, you see the house, you see the cars, you see the family, you see the vacations, you see it, right? And your emotions are getting mixed into it. So what happens is this starts to seep into your subconscious through repetition, right? Through repetition, it starts to seep in. And so your body is kind of in like this XY vibration, which means you are programmed to still do these X-type things, right? You're still your old self, but you also have these Y-type, these $1 million ideas coming. And so you are both. You're both, which I believe is called ambivalence, which is when you have two different ideas toward the same thing. So you're like, I really want to make this YouTube video because I know I want to make $1 million a month, but I'm really scared what people are going to say about me, right? So you have these two different ideas about the same thing because you have not overtaken your programming. But what happens is as you continue to plant these new ideas, as you continue to take the actions from that state where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm a millionaire. I earn $1 million a month. I have a $30 million home. I travel. I take my family all over the world. We do what we want, right? So as you begin to mix these ideas and you're mixing the emotion, you feel the gratitude for these things. You are starting to delete this X type, or I guess you could say like dilute it. You are diluting it. Every time you go into your mind, every time you go in the closet and shut the door, every time you are visualizing the life you want, you're diluting your old self and you are pouring the glass of your new self. And you have to realize that things will be kind of chaotic for a while, because this is a chaotic. When you have X and Y, it's chaotic. You're nervous, terror barrier. You're like, holy smokes, how am I gonna do this? How is it gonna work out? I don't know how to do this, right? You're like freaked out. You're nervous. You're scared. You're worried. That's how you know change is coming. But once you overtake this and you become this version of yourself, this is when you go on to autopilot for the better. You have these Y-type ideas. You have Y conditioning. Your body's in the Y vibration. You get Y results. Y results are $1 million a month. Right? So you see what I'm saying here? Watching this video won't make you rich. Watching 100 other videos will not make you rich. Reading the books won't make you rich. The only way to change is to know what you want, right? So you decide on exactly what you want. You know where you are, and you get disgusted with it, because that dissatisfaction is what is going to inspire you to change. That step is so important. It seems so obvious. You're like, oh, well, I know where I'm at. Yeah, no, you don't. Because if you really look at your results, you're going to be like, this is really the best I'm doing. Because you're just on autopilot. You're programmed. We're all programmed. We're just living. Most people are not thinking. We're just reacting to the outside world. So you're like, okay, I know what I want. I know where I am. I'm going into the closet twice a day. I'm shutting the door. I'm going into my mind. I'm going into my mind, the spiritual side of myself, right? And I'm seeing this new version of myself, and I'm feeling the emotions of it multiple times a day, right? Repetition, repetition, repetition. I'm listening to, you can pick something. You can listen to Bob Proctor's seminar, You Were Born Rich. You can listen to, there's so many different things, but just listen to, at least have one thing that you are listening to every day, right? So like, if you're listening to the Bob Proctor You Were Born Rich seminar, right? Listen to episode 1 every day for 2 weeks. And then after that, go to episode 2. And then after that, go to episode 3. And so watching just his seminar should take you at least like 7 episodes, 2 weeks on each one. It should take you at least like 14 weeks minimum before you are done with the program. Then you restart it and you do 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, right? This is how you're going to change, because you have the repetition of all these, ideas over and over and over, and the repetition is going to get in there. So As you listen to, and that's why you'll notice a song, right? A song, you listen to it many, many times over and over and over again, all of a sudden you know the words. That's what I mean. If you are just watching all these different videos that are all telling you the same thing in different forms, you're not going to get different results. You're going to get the same results because you are not internalizing it, because they're all slightly changing it. And so your mind doesn't pick up that it's saying the same thing over and over. But if you just watch the same thing over and over and over, you will notice, you will see yourself doing those things. Like right now, I notice myself saying things that I've been listening to because I've heard them so many times in the last few weeks. So that's like honestly that's the basis of it, right? So you know what you want. You understand that you operate by a program. You are a computer program, basically. The only way you're going to change is if you change your programming. You change your programming through repetition, images, and emotion. The real way to change is to repetitiously plant images and emotions, right? So you go into your mind, you shut out your senses, you don't listen, you shut out your sight, you get into this imaginative spiritual world, and you see the image you want, you feel the emotion as if it's actually real, over and over. Now you are filling up your cup with that, and you're diluting your old programming. Now you're going to start to see yourself that way. You're going to see yourself as that millionaire. And guess what? When you see yourself as a millionaire, other people see you the way you see you. So when you change the way you see you, other people are going to start to see you differently. You will notice people acting differently towards you, good or bad. There will be people around you that do not like you anymore because you've changed, and they can tell. And there will be random people who will come into your life, and they will be keys to your story because they were attracted. They're a part of your plan. They're a part of your way to get to where you want to go. So you do that 3 weeks, a month. You never stop, really. But I'm just saying this so that you actually do it. Because if I say do this for the next year, your mind's immediately like, can't do that. But if I'm like, do it for 3 weeks, you're like, okay, maybe, yeah. But that's really what it comes down to. You know what so let me just write this out. Just really quick, really simple. So you figure out, okay, what do I want? What do I want, right? Where do I want to live? How much do I want to earn? What do I want to do for a living? Who do I want to help? What car do I want? What house do I want? What vacations do I want to go on? How many kids do I want? What is my, if you don't have a girlfriend or something, what is my dream girl going to look like? Or my dream guy if you're a girl watching this? And like, you just really think this out. Have a clear image, because you realize your mind, your spiritual side of you, God, he gives you everything that you ask for. But the problem is you don't know what you want. So you're not asking for what you think you want. You're asking for the same things over and over because you're simply looking outside of you and saying, oh, this is my life. And then that's what he continues to give you. But when you change that image, if you go into the spiritual side of you and you show him, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am, because you don't get what you want, you get what you are. And that's like one of the biggest bars that it's so difficult to internalize. Me wanting that $30 million home does nothing. But me being someone who has a $30 million home does everything. Because I'm someone new. I'm taking new actions from a new attitude, from a new frequency, which is then going to change my results, because it's an action reaction that we live in. The world, the results you have, the world you're living in right now is a result of your past actions, your past thoughts, your past feelings. So you have to realize that if you want new results, you're going to need new feelings, new thoughts, new actions, new frequencies. Everything's got to change. If you stay the same, it's going to stay the same. Action, reaction. So ask yourself, what is the new action? And by action, I don't mean necessarily just like posting videos or something. I mean like who you are. What are you doing right now to change? The answer is probably nothing, right? So you say, what do I want? Step 2, you say, where am I now? And you have to be brutally honest with yourself. Where are you now? Are you doing what you say you're going to do? Are you getting up when you say you're going to get up? Are you earning what you want to earn? How much is in the bank account? Is it going up? Is it going down? Right? Be honest with what car are you driving? Is that the best car you could have? What house are you living in? Is that the best house you could live in? What profession are you in? What career do you have? Is that the best career you could get? Ask yourself, is this the best I could do? Because what's crazy is when you figure out what you want, and then you come across these terror barriers, right? Where you're like, okay, I know I need to do this, but holy smokes, I'm scared. Like, what are people going to say? What if I fail? What if it doesn't work, right? You start to have these thoughts that like your escape plan. But when you know where you are and you know what you want, in these moments, you look back and you say, if I don't take this action, I will be living this life. If I take this action, this is on the other side. And that should be enough to get you to take the action. If it's not, then your goals aren't good enough. Your goals aren't what you truly want. If it's what you truly want, then simply self-reflecting and saying, if I want this, I'm going to have to take this action. If I don't take this action, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is the life I'm going to be living. That should be enough to get you to, take action. So in step 3, you know what you want, and then you understand that you are programmed to live the way you're living. You're programmed to think the way you think based on how you were raised, the school you went to, what your teachers told you, your coaches, your friends, what everyone told you, because most people don't think. If I told you you're ugly, you're probably going to be like, oh my gosh, right? But you have the ability to say, no, I'm not. You don't have to accept what I tell you, but most people always accept what people tell them. So if I told you you're a loser, you suck, and you're ugly, you're probably going to be like, oh yeah, I am. But you could be like, no, I'm not. Boom. I'm a winner. I'm a millionaire. I'm rich. And just like that, everything changed because you were able to say, nope, this is who I am. Someone says that, nope, this is who I am. Oh, how are you ever going to get rich? No. Nope. I already am. I already see this. This is who I am. Guess what? No one can stop you when you have that vision planted. But when you don't have it clearly planted, you have to realize every little thing that someone says is going to pull you back. So you're programmed. Understand that. And understand you can't fight the programming, but you can change the programming. You can't just try to fight your behavior. You realize that you're programmed to take actions. You can't fight the action, but you can reprogram yourself. You can get an update, right? So then step 4, you need to plant this image. Step 4 is you plant. Plant the image, right? Your visualizations. You are seeing this life. Visualization plus emotion plus repetition, right? So you're visualizing and you're feeling it and you're doing it multiple times a day, every day for weeks on end, right? So now you realize, like I was saying, you're diluting your old cup and you're filling up the new cup. And then you'll get to this point where you'll have half and half. This is when things are hard. This is when you're going to get, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, am I going to do this? And then bang, you break through that. All of a sudden the good cup is filled. And then you're just on autopilot. And it's just like, oh my gosh, everything's just falling into place. People are texting me. Clients are coming out of nowhere. Opportunities coming out of nowhere. Everything just fell in my lap. I don't know how this happened. God, that's how it happened, right? So you plant, and then step 5, you live. Or no. Sorry. Action from the state. And when I say state, I mean this state. I mean this feeling that you're generating. You are now going to take action. So if you're like, oh, I need to film a YouTube video, spend 5 minutes and go into your mind. See yourself as the way you want to be, the life you want to live. Feel it as real. Feel the emotions. Bang, get into the YouTube video. Start filming. Bang, bang, bang. Now you are taking actions as the higher version of yourself. And basically, you're bending the world to your new reality. Literally, you can bend the world to your reality. And if you're not happy with the life you're living, you need to change something. This is your time, right? Because before you know it, it's going to be 2027, 2028, 2029. And then you don't know how much time's left. You don't know how much time you have on this earth. Tomorrow could be your last day. You don't know. I don't know. I don't want to wish that upon anybody. But what I'm saying is you don't know how much time is left. So why are you waiting to change? So you take actions from the state, which is you're going to come across the terror barrier, right? You're going to be taking these actions and it's going to be scary. You're going to have these opportunities that are going to come your way. They're going to scare you to death. You're going to be like, I don't know what in the world. I don't know how to do this. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if it all fails? That's how you know you're in the right spot, right? So you have these actions you're taking from the state of what you're feeling in the visualizations, and you're coming across the terror barrier. You're smashing through those. And then before you know it, you'll be living it. Because you are leaving the world no choice. Because your feelings, your thoughts, and your actions are all aligned with the millionaire version of yourself. Therefore, you must become that. Because remember, I said you don't get what you want, you get what you are. And if you are spiritually, physically, emotionally, in actions, in thoughts, and in feelings, that version of yourself, that's who you are, and you get what you are, right? So you do that physically, bang. Now that is called freedom. You realize, hey, I can live any life I want. I can do anything I want. I can live anything. I can achieve anything. Because it's not me doing it. It's God. That's the key. That's why it's so important. If you're making $5,000 a month and you say you want to make 10, how inspired are you going to be? You're not going to be inspired because what can you do with $10,000 a month? What can you really do? Oh, I could live the same life as everyone else. Is that going to inspire you? It doesn't inspire me. If it inspires you, good for you. But for me, I want to live a life that people can't even comprehend because that's what fires me up. And for some people, maybe you don't need much. Maybe you're like, you know what? I don't even want a house. I just want to travel 24/7. Good. Whatever puts that fire under you where you're like, holy smokes, this is crazy. That's what you need to do because that is going to cause you to feel inspired. And inspiration is what causes you to actually change. If you're not inspired, you will stay the same. So this is freedom. I just told you everything you need to change your life. Every single thing you need. But the thing is watching this video is not going to do it for you. Watching this video 5 times is not going to do it for you. The only thing that will do it for you is watching this video repetitiously, spaced repetition, every day for a month, while doing what I'm saying in this video, while deciding on what you want, while going into your spiritual side of you and acting upon those things. You're seeing that life, you're feeling those feelings, you're taking actions from those feelings. That is what will cause changes. That's what will cause your results to change. Watching this video alone will do nothing. Reading the books will do nothing. Watching other videos will do nothing. The only way you're going to change is by listening to the same things over and over and over. And by over and over, I mean at least for multiple weeks and doing the actions. The biggest thing I could say is you need to watch this video as many times until you see yourself doing what I'm saying to do. And as you see yourself doing those, then you say, okay, I am someone who visualizes twice per day. I visualize twice per day. Make that a part of who you are. And then make sure you're seeing that life you want to live over and over and over. That is what will cause change. And then as you feel those feelings, you take actions from those feelings. You have to realize that you're going to want to procrastinate. I was trying to procrastinate this video. I walked around for like 15 minutes just doing, who knows what, because I was like, that's how I knew this is what I needed to do, because I was avoiding it. What you're avoiding is what you need to do. So you're going to realize that it's going to be easier to bail out. But if your inspiration is big enough, you will not bail out and you will take the action. And you take the action from that feeling of who you desire to be. Become that person now and take actions from that place now, and your results will change. Your results will be the results that you genuinely do want. And it could be as simple as you're like, okay, I got to film a YouTube video real quick. I don't have time to visualize. Close your eyes and say, I have 100,000 subscribers. I earn $1 million a month. And see that, feel it for 5 seconds. Bang, now do the video. I guarantee your results will change. Why do you think there is someone else? There's 2 people who are posting the exact same thing. They're doing the same thing, posting 10 Instagram stories a day, 10 TikToks a day. One guy's famous, one guy, nobody knows his name. What's the difference? They're both posting. They're both people. The difference is the attitude that they post from. One guy sees himself as famous and therefore he becomes famous. One guy sees himself as a nobody and therefore he becomes a nobody. But you change that thought in your mind, your actions will start to change. Your paradigm, your programming will change, and your results absolutely must change. If you try to skip changing the paradigm, if you try to just say, oh man, I need to post more YouTube videos, all you're going to do is get short-term results. You might post more for a week or two. After that, bang, back to never, right? But if you change your programming, if you change that image of what you want, you will naturally do these things. You don't have to think, oh, I need to do this. You just do it. And then you're like, and then a month later you look back and you're like, how did I even get here? Like, this is crazy. That's how you know it's working. So you figure out what you want. You look at where you are now. You understand that you are simply programmed to get to where you are right now. And if you want to change, you have to change your programming. You can't change the actions. You can't change by saying, I'm going to do this, and do this. Nothing's going to change. You have to change your programming. You change your programming by planting the image of what you desire in your mind. You plant into your mind through images, through emotion, and you do that repetitiously. Then you take actions from that feeling, from that state. You take actions from that state, you will come across these new opportunities that will make you scared to death. Those opportunities are the opportunities that will change your life. They're going to be easier to bail out of than they are to do. It's easier to back down than it is to go through it. But if your inspiration is big enough, you will go right through it. And that is when you will live your dream life physically. You will have a life of freedom. I know this was long, but I genuinely believe that if you watch this video over and over and you do the things that I say in this video, I guarantee you will live the life you want to live in less than a year from now, less than 6 months. It should take you less than 6 months, and you should need a telescope to look back at where you used to be. If you take the actions, if you feel the feelings and then take the actions, if you're doing the visualizations. Watching this video alone will do nothing. Reading the books alone will do nothing. Doing the programs alone will do nothing. But the second that you start implementing, and I just told you how to implement, I just went through all of that. That's when your results will change. That's when your life will change. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I will catch you guys in the next video.